Welcome to our series special, a unique segment of Narratives and Nightcaps, the book club podcast, where we dive into the details of a book series, pair it with a nightcap, and leave a book review. And all your favorites are here. It's Jordan.
And
I'm
Emily.
There we go.
And
I'm
Megan.
Eventually, we're gonna get this down.
Listen, I believe in us. It's not a problem. Oh my gosh. And we have like the most fun book to talk about today. I'm super excited to discuss The Last Man to Die. Did I even say the title right? Yes, I did. The Man Who Died Twice. There we go. The Man Who Died Twice by Richard Osman, the second in the Thursday Murder Club series. And you know what? Let's just dive right into this book and to this pairing because I'm just really excited. Emily, what do you have for us?
Sure. So, as a cozy crime novel, I thought it deserved a cozy glass of red. So, I paired this book with Dunham Sellers' Trutina Red Blend. The Man Who Died Twice delivers really sharp wit, and is also, it pulls at your heartstrings. We'll talk about like Ibrahim. We'll get into that. And so this red blend, I think, pairs really well with that. It starts out, kind of fruity and warm at first, but then has this depth that you just weren't expecting as you get into it. I think Trutina, this is where the name of the wine came from, is a Latin word that means balance. And I think both this book and this red blend are both beautifully balanced. The story equally balances a murder mystery, cozy, retired, kind of Scooby-Doo gang vibes, and witty sarcasm as the wine balances, all the blends that they bring together. So cheers.
Oh my gosh, cheers. That's perfect. I absolutely love that. Oh, that is so, so good. And yes, we're going to talk about Ibrahim, this book, for sure, 100%, because my heart. Let's get into ratings and like initial thoughts on the book. What did y'all think?
I'll say it because I think it might be in some of our notes too. I enjoyed this book more than the first book. I'm going to just plant that flag out there. Firmly.
I'm right there with you. 100%.
100%. And it's very rare that I like a second book more than the original. And this one, for me, the second one was better. Hands down.
I 100% agree.
I agree.
It was that way for you too, Megan? Oh my gosh. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
And it's so crazy. So going back to just kind of our conversation on the Thursday Murder Club initially, I think across the board, one thing all of us agreed on was that there were a lot of red herrings. There were a lot of loopholes, a lot of details to the story that made it a little bit harder to follow. Still very, very enjoyable, but hard to follow. And while this book also had its red herrings, and we'll get into those too, I did find this one easier to follow, which I think was why I enjoyed it more. Was that part of the enjoyment for all of you as well?
I think for me, the thing, like, it hit on the big three that I was looking for in the sequel. One was I now knew the characters and I knew kind of the vibe, so it was definitely easier to pick up the storyline. I loved the insight into Elizabeth's backstory that we got in this book. Like, I was craving that at the end of book one. So the fact that we got more about Elizabeth and how she ended up to be the Elizabeth we love, that was like checked the box for me there. And I thought, just not that I wanted Ibrahim to get hurt. Was not what I was going for. But I wanted, like, knowing more about Ibrahim and seeing their group come together and rally for him, I thought was a really poignant, sweet moment and let us kind of dive in deeper to all of their connections. A highlight of the book for me was Joyce's Instagram account.
Yes.
Like, I'm just like, that was absolutely,
I would follow her in a heartbeat.
Cackling. Oh, for sure. And it reminded me, Megan, of what you shared with all of us on our text chat with the retirement home that has that Instagram chat or Instagram account. And it was just so funny. I think she called hers in the book, it's like Great Joy 69 or something. Like, we all know where all those messages that she's getting. I was cackling because I was listening to the audiobook and I was dying.
I had to read parts of that out loud to Jared just because I was like, I need someone else to experience this with me. Like, same. I was laughing out loud. It was so funny.
Oh my God. So
It's
good.
funny. I was listening to this as I was doing a book crawl, like in our local area. So it was really fun to be like driving, like listening to this murder mystery. But I was laughing in the car to myself when he was talking about Joyce's Instagram page and all of this. It was good.
Gosh. I love it. I love it. Megan, did you want to add anything before I get into like our plot summary and setup?
I think like the only thing that made me not like super confused, but for me, I felt like I was a little bit hung up on the age of Ron's grandson because I felt like to me, in my heart, these people are much older than what I was anticipating. But I think like having a younger-ish grandson, I'm like, well, maybe they're like my parents' age, and that's not that old. So I was having a hard time with like how old are they really? Or they I mean, I guess is the depiction just supposed to be that they're an older generation of grandparents? I don't know. I was just having a hard time with that one. But I loved that I liked obviously like Elizabeth's background, but I also loved like I feel like we got a little bit of everybody's background a little bit deeper too. So like knowing that Ron has a grandson that he's close with and like brings around to the community and everyone knows him. And obviously Joyce and then even Bogdan, I feel like we got a little bit more depth on him,
Yes.
which I've just been loving his relationship with Steven. And as that's been flourishing while they play chess, it's just so nice.
I know. It's so sweet. Okay. Well, let me get into the setup a little bit and then we'll kind of pick it up and talk a little bit about the plot. So, confession time, I did not put this setup or plot summary together. It 100% came from the story graph. So, you're welcome. These are the things that happen, listeners, when you're in the middle of moving and life is just lifing. Um, so, all right, here is the setup. It's the following Thursday. Elizabeth has received a letter from an old colleague, a man with whom she has a long history. He's made a mistake, and he needs her help. His story involves stolen diamonds, a violent mobster, and a very real threat to his life. As bodies start piling up, Elizabeth enlists Joyce, Ibrahim, and Ron in the hunt for a ruthless murderer. And if they find the diamonds too, well, wouldn't that be a bonus? But this time, they're up against an enemy who wouldn't bat an eyelid at knocking off 4 septuagenarians. Can the Thursday Murder Club find the killer and the diamonds before the killer finds them? Okay, so let's talk about the big plot line first. Douglas. Did we anticipate that it would be Elizabeth's ex-husband at all? Did
No, but
anyone
No,
I
see
loved
that
it.
one?
not at all.
I thought it was excellent. Like, I was like, wait a second. I feel like there was reference in the first book that she was married before Stephen, but I may or may not have missed that detail. I don't know. And then when it was her ex-husband, I was like, okay, classy touch. Really nice. And what did we think of Douglas's character?
I thought he was, I don't know, I was envisioning if you've seen the movie Red,
Mhm.
like with the retired extremely dangerous, right, movie, I was kind of picturing some of those characters with Douglas and this gang that was coming through. Um I thought it was a really nice way to get more into Elizabeth's backstory. I got the sense that Douglas is one of those people that didn't hasn't really changed much throughout like he seemed like a player then, which is why Elizabeth like didn't end up along with him and he seemed like one now or like when the book took place.
Mhm.
Hadn't really changed per se. But I did think that it was a very well written character. I liked him and it was a nice way to bring in kind of some of the subplots that we can get into. What did
I
you guys
agree.
think?
I thought it was like really fun and the banter between him and Elizabeth was just top notch. Loved all of that. But I don't know, maybe this was I liked the pacing of it a lot more. Like with this
Mm-hmm.
story really kind of kicked off from
Mhm.
the beginning. I mean, I know we pick up a week later from when we left off with book 1, but I thought it, to your point, it was a really interesting way to like give Elizabeth's backstory, to really show her character development and why she is the way that she is. So I loved it, and I particularly enjoyed the banter between them, although maybe there wasn't a lot of it, but I liked it while it lasted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
What did
we
you
can
think,
just kind
Jordan?
of I it's really weird and I don't know if I want to say it, but I guess I'm going to go ahead and say it. Like it also still felt like she had this like emotional connection and this tie to Douglas that I like almost found myself wanting her to be with him and not Steven. And then I was like, but that feels really
Oh,
wrong. So I was very conflicted and torn from that point for a brief moment until, again, listener, we are spoiler friendly, not spoiler free here. And let's just say Douglas doesn't make it, which is very, very sad. Did anybody else struggle with that at all, though? Or was I alone in that?
I didn't think
Actually,
it was real.
I didn't think it was real either.
Really?
I didn't I didn't think it was real, and then when I figured out that it was a lot more, not, I was not sobbing or crying or anything, but it really tugged a lot more at my heartstrings with Douglas, and also spoiler friendly, and Poppy. Like I just felt it, the whole situation tugged a lot more at me than I was initially expecting, but I didn't think it was real.
Yeah, I'm with you. I didn't think it was real. I thought there was going to be some twist, like they used a cadaver and like it looked like him, and they somehow figured it out. I think though, when I did Breeze, I think when I kind of realized that it was actually real, I was a lot more heartbroken about Poppy than Douglas. And I think that
100%.
was maybe because Poppy was like younger, newer in her career. It was her first big assignment, it seemed like, whereas Douglas was a seasoned veteran. Not to say that he deserved it, but that he knew the risks a little bit more, and Poppy seemed very much collateral damage, and she kind of was.
She was, and she was also hesitant to be there in the first place.
She didn't want to do the job.
Okay,
Like,
so yes, let's set up Poppy because I think that that's great. So she's like one of his guards or like his babysitter from like MI5, if you will, the same spy organization, right, where Elizabeth and Douglas met. And she's this real cute,
mhm.
real pretty young thing, whatever. I also thought I wrote down in one of my notes because there's a chapter where like Joyce and Elizabeth are really kind of forming this friendship with her and like taking her under their wing. Um did anybody just like feel it? Anybody else just like feel it in their core when Joyce and Elizabeth were like, don't be boring. Like just like come on. Like liven up a little bit. Like give like give, give it some personality. And I was like, "Oh, if I like just envisioning myself in my 30s taking that from like someone in their 70s, 80s, I'm like, "Oh, yep, I've been schooled." So, I just thought it was really, really cute and really sweet though the connection that Joyce and Poppy especially end up developing too because that was just wonderful.
And I think that too, Jordan, like, because when Poppy, this is before obviously Poppy and Douglas are killed. When Poppy kills the first attacker that
Mhm.
tries to kill Douglas, and then she's really upset about it, rightfully so. And like Elizabeth is comforting her, and Joyce is comforting her, and that was kind of a surreal scene of like comforting her after her first kill, and then she dies herself. That was just pulled at all the heartstrings.
It really does. It absolutely does. Oh my gosh. Well, and I think there was a part of me that was holding out. We can kind of segue and transition to talking about some of the other characters and plotline in a second here too, but I think the hard part and what made it tug at your heartstrings so much too was the possibility of hope, right? Because when we were thinking that like this was staged, or we were thinking that it was a setup, if you will, until they had actual confirmation that Douglas and Poppy were both for sure dead, I was like, oh, they're going to find them and they're going to be alive and it's going to be great. And that, sadly, listener, was not the case. So
I'll
I
tell
was
you too, like with their death, the twist that I like did not see coming was the twist with Poppy's mom. Like, and
yeah.
Joyce. And that got me hook, line, and sinker, as far as I was right there with. So the setup, listener, is that at one point Joyce believes Poppy sticks a note in her pocket that's like, call my mom, because Poppy doesn't really want to necessarily be there. She's thinking about leaving and doing some, other things. And so Joyce calls Poppy's mom, especially after Poppy is killed. And they like go to have tea. Elizabeth Joyce, go over to have tea with her. They go with her to make sure to identify the body and all this stuff. And it turns out to not actually be Poppy's mom. And that I like did not see that coming. I don't know if you guys had any indication, but that was one point I was like,
That was definitely
Yes,
a good red
agree.
herring.
Yes. That was definitely an out loud, like, what is going on moment. And also, how many times did you guys have to Google and listen to how to pronounce her name? Because I did a lot.
I
Siobhan?
just read over it.
Siobhan.
Yes. Siobhan.
That
I
is
was like,
one kind of like,
what?
oh my gosh, what's that other name that's Sorsha?
I,
That's
Oh, yes.
well, it made me think of an interview with her. I don't even on some late show from forever ago, where he like holds up a bunch of Irish names.
Was it like
And
Jimmy Fallon or something?
yes,
Something like
oh,
that.
he's
like
Yes.
like,
I
I need to
immediately,
see this.
It's
I
good.
I immediately thought of that clip when she's doing that, and I was just like, oh gosh, no.
Well, and then so another the like I watch a lot of the like American Horror Story stuff, and the latest one, Delicate, that Kim Kardashian is in, her character is named Chauvin, and it's spelled Chopin, like how it's spelled in the book. So I like, even hearing that, I was like, oh my gosh, is that even the same name? So I
Siobhan.
had to make sure I looked it up.
I have to bring up, okay, sorry, we just talked the 7 year slip. I know we like just talked about that too, but Megan, do you remember when we were reading that? And isn't his name Ewan? Or
Yes.
and we were
Oh my
like,
And we
gosh.
were like, Ewan.
we're-
I
Ewan.
went.
When I was reading it, I went, Ewan, I'm going to go with James. We're just going to call him James.
well,
Yes.
well, Megan like looked at Kyle, her husband, and she was like, "How would you say this name?" And he was like, "Oh, Ewan." And we were like,
Oh,
"No,
Oh,
how do you
no."
guess that?
Wait,
just-
how is it spelled?
it's hilarious.
Is it?
It's
is it-
like,
It's like IWAN.
oh
Yeah,
yeah, it's
IWAN.
IWAN.
Yes.
Okay, so not
But
like Ewan McGregor with an E.
No,
No.
no,
Okay, it's with an I. Yeah.
It's
So
way
I
not.
I didn't
Well.
listen to the 7 year slip, and so when I read a book, I just go, oh, that character. Oh,
Yep.
that character again. I just don't even like have a sound in my head. It's just you are back again.
Same. It's kind of weird
Yeah.
how that happens though, because I know there are some things that we've read and I read it and I just give it a new name, however it sounds. But then there are other times I read it and to your point, Emily, I just go, oh, and it's you. And
It's you.
keep moving on. And
Keep moving. It's you.
No,
but
now
other
what
times I
Bree
commit.
does is
I
she
commit
looks at
to-
that. Now what Bree does is she
Sometimes I
looks at that
commit.
name and she goes, Peleus.
Oh gosh. The name was gonna be the death of me. If I had to say that,
Oh my gosh. Oh, I
Oh.
love it.
Never
That's too
again.
funny. Okay, yes. So the woman masquerading as Siobhan, Poppy's mom, actually ends up being another lover of Douglas's. And we're gonna
But
get
still
into
has the
that.
same name. Isn't her name still Siobhan?
No, her name is
Aren't
Sally.
they?
But Poppy's name,
Oh,
Poppy's mom's name actually is
is the
Really
real
Siobhan.
one.
is.
It's the
Yes,
Yes,
real one.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
yes. Siobhan,
I was like, I
aka
knew there was two
the
of
real
them
one.
in there.
Yes.
So Douglas, I'm just gonna do a like red string verbally, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
Douglas is having an affair or a fling with fake Siobhan
Mhm,
and Sue, and
mhm,
is Elizabeth's ex husband.
mhm.
Well, and
Mhm.
isn't Sally, like, wasn't she part of the reason that he and Elizabeth
I
broke
think
up?
Sue
so. I
Yeah.
think
was.
she was the original.
Poppy's
I
fake
thought it
mom.
was Sally, because that's why Sally's like, oh, isn't that name familiar to you?
Mhm.
Because she was
Okay,
part of
yes.
the
Yes,
reason
yes, yes.
they
So
divorced.
because
She
we're
was one
yes,
of the affairs.
yes. So we're also introduced to Sue and Lance, who are also MI5 members, and Sue and Sally both also being former lovers of Douglas's. Yes,
Hmm.
essentially. But yes, I think you're right. Sally was like the OG one.
I'm
Um
not
Hmm.
gonna lie though, I didn't really see that coming with Sue being the
No,
No.
mastermind
me
behind it
either.
all. Like, I was not
That was
expecting that.
another like verbal like what?
Did
Yeah.
anybody else think it was going to be Lance? I was pretty
Yes,
sure it
I
was
was
going to
gonna
be
say,
Yes.
Lance.
I thought he was gonna be way more involved.
I
Same.
thought
Yeah,
it
and
was
he
gonna
was
be
really just kind of a side character.
Yeah.
Like, he's just a little B character over there.
But he
I
did
thought
know about the diamonds, right? Like, didn't he help steal them?
Yes.
Okay,
He
Right?
so that
did.
part was confirmed. But
Yes.
then he just kind of was like there for the rest of it.
Pretty much. Pretty much. He replaced
I kind of wonder why he didn't catch on. Why he didn't catch on more quickly? Because he
Right.
had to have known that Sue and Douglas were hooking up.
I
One
I
would
mean
think.
or
this
if he didn't,
No, go ahead.
I was like, if he didn't know, then he needs to find a new job because
Mhm.
you
Yeah,
can't
he's
be part of
not good.
MI5 and like a spy and you don't know that your partner's having an affair. Just saying.
My head canon would be as Sue's partner, like he has a thing for her as like business, like as like spy partners, colleagues, whatever, like he had a thing for her, and like it was literally the type like unrequited love, like he would do anything for her, knowing that like she didn't reciprocate, right? That like she was like always kind of like after Douglas. That's not a thing in the book, listener, but like that's my headcanon as we're going down this
Okay,
rabbit
I
hole
was like,
talking
wow,
about
I
Lance.
really didn't pick up on
Come
that.
on, then.
Maybe it was there, maybe it wasn't. I don't know.
That's funny.
Smarmy Weasel of the book, Ryan Baird? Question mark?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you beat up an old man like Ibrahim
Yeah.
of all people. I call you a smarmy weasel. I want to call you worse things, but I will be polite
Do
and call
it.
you
We're an
smarmy weasel.
explicitly rated podcast. You can say whatever the hell you want. I can't be the only one cussing over here. Come on.
I'll leave it.
He's a piece of shit. We can just say it.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Okay,
I'll
fine.
join you, Megan.
I'll jump in.
Yes,
Okay.
he is. Oh my gosh. So, listener, pretty early on in the story, Ibrahim gets attacked. And it's just awful. Let's just leave it at that because it's really, really sad. And I don't like it.
He was
He
attacked for his cell phone. Like
Right.
it
For
was a
nothing.
robbery for nothing. It was like they beat him up to take his cell phone. But I think they got the cell phone. Like they just pushed him down and picked up the cell phone. They
but they
like
kept
were
beating him up.
extra aggressive exactly, like unnecessarily even after they had the cell phone. And it was
Which
just
that was like the saddest part of this whole book for me. Like it just makes
Mhm.
you realize how vulnerable they are. And it, I mean, again, like it just was completely unnecessary. And what I absolutely hated was that he Ibrahim up to that point was like in such a positive headspace and like, I love being outside, I love driving, and like, look at this freedom I have. And then shit like that happens and he's back to being so isolated and alone with his own thoughts and feelings. And even though he's a psychiatrist and he knows that he should open up and I almost take his own advice, he just has such a hard time doing that after such a jolting experience in his late life, which is so sad.
Well, and even Megan, your
So sad.
last, when we talked about, with the last episode, the idea of him being on the spectrum, like if I had not had that outlook or like that theory before, that was absolutely the way that he handled what he went through, the traumatic experience. I was like, that is you. Yeah. Like you are fighting to do what you can and to see the light, but you're also like, there's absolutely more there mentally. And I hope in book 3 that we get even more of that we learn a little bit more about Ibrahim. But let's talk about Ron's grandson bringing Ibrahim out of his shell a little bit and like kind
Loved
of
that.
So Kendrick, he is, oh my gosh, 12? How old was
Which
he?
like, okay, so again, you have a 70-year-old grandpa and a 12-year-old grandson. Like that was the hardest jump for me right there. This whole
Just
book.
not
Okay, now I'm
piecing
doing
together.
I'm like doing the math in my head,
I know.
and they just must have been very young, everybody involved in
Yeah.
that.
Well, and it's
Yeah,
not
or like a super oops in life for his
Yeah.
parents or
Well,
something.
actually, I'm like trying to remember the details because Kendrick is not Jason's son.
No.
Kendrick
Jason's
is
single. Well, he's now dating what's her face from the last
Is
book.
Jason's
Karen
sister's
Playfair.
son.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Yes.
And I feel like there was something in the book, there was like a sentence perhaps or two in the book that talked about Ron's daughter having Kendrick at like 19 or 20. I could be wrong.
So the math is not adding up here.
The math is not mathing.
No.
It's
No, I
not
feel like
mathing.
that tracks.
Well,
Because if she was 19 or 20 and Ron would have been, what, 58 going on 60?
isn't that, I feel like that's kind of old for a 20-year-old's parent. I mean, that means that he had his daughter at 40.
My dad was
Right?
42 when
Is
I
that
was
what we're
born.
saying?
My dad was 42 when I was born. My mom was 35. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very, very possible.
I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying, doesn't that seem
Megan
a
was
little
like,
bit
but
older? Just
No,
thoughts. Just thoughts. These are just words.
you are welcome to share them, and I understand. What were you going to
Taking
say?
this in a different direction, I was going to say this. So, the grandson aside, I liked the other side of Ron that we got to see throughout all of this. Like, I hated what happened to Ibrahim, obviously, because it was horrible and so sad. But, like, the side of Ron that we see throughout this, the, like, sentimental, caring side, but then also the end when he's just like, you don't mess with my friends. Like, I just love how he, like, came back up and was like, okay, but here's the deal. You don't mess with my friends. But we saw this gentle aspect to him that I guess I don't really recall as much in the first one. So this one focused so heavily on Elizabeth and Joyce to me, which I loved. Don't get me wrong. I loved it. But I really liked the depth that we still saw with Ron as well, specifically in his friendships with Ibrahim, but also the rest of them too, and recognizing like how much he cares for their entire group.
Yeah. My two favorite Ron moments in this book. The first one was when Elizabeth called Joyce to look at a dead body like overnight, and then Ron and then they like brought this to the rest of the Thursday Murder Club, and Ron had like what I would just I don't know
So
like
salty.
I don't know
so salty.
Like a basic white girl temper tantrum, basically, about not being the one that Elizabeth called to go see a dead body. But it was the way it was written. And again, I was listening to the audiobook. So the way that I heard it and the way so it was written
It was
is like
classic.
he should have been talking about, like, I don't know, being invited to a birthday party or something very benign, not like going to see a murder scene and a live dead body. That's not even a thing. But like going to see a real dead body. And so I loved that. And Elizabeth was like schooling him, like, just, it was a very good interaction. I thought that was expertly written and really fun to read. And the second one was when I think Brie, you talked about kind of the ending part of it, but when Ron dressed up as the plumber to like help tee up and like set the, I think it was a brick of cocaine or, you know, whatever in the toilet, and like used a fake name and went total spy, like revenge for Ibrahim. And then his punchline at the end of like, you don't mess with my friends.
Yeah.
That was all, like all of those parts building up to that one liner. I was loving for Ron. Loving.
In general, like the dialogue and all of the one-liners, like across between Ron, Elizabeth, and Joyce, and Bogdan too, like where they were just so good across the board for this one. Like I know we're super excited for it to come out on Netflix too with the first one, but I'm even more excited. Like I'm like, I hope they continue because this one, at least what I was able to visualize while I was reading and everything was just, it was hilarious. And I was like, I can't wait to see these this group of elderly people acting like the Scooby-Doo gang, like you said, running
100%.
around and like facing down villains who are pulling their gun out but just totally taking it in stride. And and Joyce like bandaging up Sue and just being like, do you want any painkillers? And she's like, yeah, I'll take some. And Joyce's like, too bad. I'm like,
Oh, and then
it's
one of
spot
my
on.
one of my favorites with Ron too. I appreciate that you brought up the planting the cocaine with Ryan. And I just was gonna talk about too, like him staying with Ibrahim at the or at the hospital. Like
Yeah.
that was another one of those things too, right? Like he shows up for people, and that was so much more. Yes, it was evident in book 1 more so for his family and like everything that his son Jason was going through, right? But this one felt much more, I don't know. It just
It was
I
sweet.
loved that a lot. It was
I liked
very
it.
sweet.
Yeah. I will say, I think one of my favorite Kendrick moments was when he and Ibrahim were watching the train station
Kendrick?
tape.
Sorry,
Did I
carry on.
miss? Did
No,
I miss?
No.
I know we're all calling him Kendrick.
It is.
Okay.
It is? Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, did I?
No,
For the
you're
love
right.
of Peleus.
No. For some reason, even the first time it was said, I was like, isn't it Kenneth? I don't know why it was.
It's Kendrick. But he calls him Kenny.
Okay.
Like Ron calls him Kenny as like a nickname.
Oh, I
But
knew
he,
that,
like,
and I know
corrected
they
him.
go back and forth about his name because he's like, no, call me Kendrick.
But you're like, oh, Kenneth.
Okay, sorry, that was my bad. I did not mean to cut you off. This is just in my
No,
head.
I it's all good.
That's a
I
great
love
choice.
seeing Kenny, Kendrick, Kenneth with Ibrahim watching the train station footage together. I just thought that was so cute. And another, like, I don't know, he was bringing Ibrahim out of his shell. It was when Ibrahim kind of first started to dip his toe back into being part of the Thursday Murder Club. And it was something he could do because he wasn't comfortable leaving or physically really healed enough to like go on the adventures. And the fact that they figured it out together to go back like one more day and saw it on the tape was super cool. That I loved reading that scene.
Well,
Don't
We're
you
listening.
think-
Go ahead.
Oh,
Someone
gosh.
else go.
I was gonna say too, like just adding on to yours, Emily, I love how like in the end he kind of figured it out. And he was like, don't you see? Can't you see it? And was like waiting for everyone to catch on to what the proof was. I guess I don't know if I want to give it away, but just to show
No, you
like
can.
who, I mean, clearly he's been paying attention to what everyone's been looking for. which was really
Yeah.
fun.
Oh my gosh.
No, I really enjoyed reading that part. And I think it was so clever. I'm jumping around at a couple of just favorite parts, but also the letter in the tree that
Yes,
Douglas and
the dead.
Elizabeth, like that was another, the dead drop where I was just like, that was another good moment. I had to laugh at Elizabeth trying to get back in her ex-husband's head too. That was kind of funny to like, what would Douglas do? Like you could just
Yeah.
imagine her like tapping her nails on the desk, like, what would Douglas do now? You know?
Oh my gosh. Well, okay, let's transition real fast and talk about, unless, sorry, Bree, I think you had a point you wanted to share. Or did you want me
It
to?
wasn't it.
It wasn't
It
an
wasn't
important
really
one. Are you
important.
sure? Okay, well, if you think of it and it ends up being important, please come back to it. But I wanted to talk
Well, it
about
hasn't left my
how.
head, but it's not important.
Well, let's talk about, listener, how Douglas ends up with the diamonds in the first place. Because there's more than one smarmy weasel in this book, and I'm also going to give that title to Martin Lomax because I like. I don't know. Did anybody else find him as a villain cute, not critical? I don't know. I kept thinking about it the whole I was like, all right, I see you. You think you're like this big bad villain, whatever. You're cute, not critical.
So I didn't see him as cute, not critical. I saw like I don't even know his name. Someone else is cute, not critical. The guy Donna goes on a date with.
Oh, yeah.
Like I was kind of
Yeah.
like I will say
What was
that
the
was the
point
only
of that?
moment that I was like, what is the point of this?
What is the
Yeah.
point of this one? Yeah.
Oh, Ryan's
And
Ryan Baird's solicitor, right? His attorney.
no, doesn't she go on a date with is it the attorney? I thought the attorney
No,
was
it's
like
some.
at the end, but there's someone else she like goes on an actual
I
date
know
with,
what
and
you're talking about.
I will say that was probably one of no there were not many because I actually like really thought the story flowed super well for this, but there were just a couple of moments, and that was one moment that I for sure thought that moment and that random guy in particular that we literally never see again, he was cute, not critical to me.
I
That's
will say
fair.
though, I think I'm with you, Brie, on the date guy. I was like, you, other than showing Donna dating, serve no purpose. I thought Martin Lomax, though, I think Jordan, I get what you're kind of saying is he kind of reminds me of like a cartoon character villain that's like not super threatening. Like, I don't
He
know, maybe
was
that's kind of like
not
he,
Ian Bentham status. He wasn't. He
yeah,
wasn't Tony
yeah.
Curran status to me at all.
Fair.
So maybe this might be a stretch because we've been watching like Despicable Me because I have small children, and so like the villains in Despicable Me are kind of where I picture like Martin Lomax is like that maybe tier.
Okay, okay.
But
Even
what
though he's like the middleman for the mob, like he's kind of,
I
I mean,
think
he's not
his-
like not dangerous.
he's dangerous, but I think he felt like more businessman
Sure,
than
sure. He's
like
the front. He's the front.
he's the front. He's the guy
Yeah.
in the suit. He's not the guy with the like machete. I don't know, like he's I don't know. That's I see him more in
Well,
the suit on the self like.
and he also flaunts what he
Go ahead.
has, right? Oh, like you can only use this bathroom. You can't even come into my house. You're like putting up all this front when you're not like you're I don't know. You're not all that in a bag of potato chips, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
He's high up on the horse.
That's all.
Yeah. I will say though, when we get to, because he's the friend for a bunch of different mafias that he like plays off of each other, right? Which
Yes.
is risky, dangerous, and like I don't know how he is still alive having done all that. But when we get to the end and like in the span of a page, I feel like 4 characters are just shot dead.
Yeah.
Like not even a page. It was like a paragraph.
And
How
then
did
you're
you
like,
guys
all
feel
of a
about
sudden,
that
wait, what the heck
part?
just happened?
Yeah.
Also, another moment that I was like, I think it's fake. I was like, I don't think they're really, but
Yeah.
like just it was pretty brief, but again, I was like, there's no way. They just
Yeah, I agree. And especially too knowing that Connie. So Connie's like the local town drug dealer. Like, how does she just walk in and walk out unscathed? Pretty
Unscathed.
much. Like
Yeah.
that was insane. Like everything went down, and she was just like, "Well, see ya," and then left.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
mean, she
now
got what she deserved, but still, like,
now
that
that
was
you're
kind of
talking
bizarre.
about it, though, that is making me think like, yeah, you know what? This book definitely didn't end like tied up or like it, you know, like all wrapped in like a nice neat bow. Obviously, it's a series. Like we're going to get to the next book and we'll talk about that here in a little while, but like now that I'm thinking about that, I'm like, oh yeah, this one absolutely, like it left even more loose ends to tie up, I feel like, than the first one did. Interestingly enough,
Does
in my opinion.
Is anyone else nervous though? Because like, how do you top the MI5, MI6 history and connections and like, I
I
don't. How do you
I
top
feel
that?
like, yeah, that's true. I feel like though that to me that opens a pathway for some of these characters to return. Like I feel like that's maybe this isn't the last we've heard of Lance. Like maybe Lance will
Yes,
be back
I was
in
gonna
the
say the
third
same
book
thing.
because
Lance gets
we are
redemption.
he gets redemption and he gets his freaking hair. Good for him. That's
Good
what
for
he
him.
wanted.
Good for-
Okay, but talk about him not being good at his job. Isn't he in that scene with all the, and then everybody gets shot,
Yeah.
and he's kind of like, what's
Yeah,
happening?
he's
What
kind
do
of,
I
well,
do?
here's a slumped body. Yeah.
He's like, man, they're bleeding everywhere. Like, I was like, dude, what are you doing? Get up, do something. Don't
Now
you
that
carry a
almost,
weapon?
well, and it's making me wonder maybe that's a front. Like maybe he is more deep than we are getting in this book, and maybe by the third book or whenever he comes back again, or maybe he is just a cute, not critical kind of guy too. So
No,
who
I
Or
was
knows?
really bad at his
actually,
job.
Yeah,
he
or
could
bad
be
at his
all
job.
of the above,
Yeah.
to be completely honest. No, but I was just thinking along the same lines of that for Connie too, to be completely honest.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's more dangerous than we like actually know, to be fair. So I don't
I
know.
agree.
She
That'll be
cracks me
interesting to
up.
see. Which
I
one?
think she's funny.
She's
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 funny.
super funny. She is very, very funny. Absolutely.
and how like super into Bogdan she is, and he's just like whatever.
Well, she's super into Bogdan, and just the way
Ma'am.
she thinks, her thought process on everything absolutely cracks me up because it doesn't make like any sense whatsoever. So
Does anybody else feel or believe that like Bogdan's out of your league, girl? Like, sorry. I don't know. I don't know.
well,
That
Bogdan's got his sights set on somebody else.
Yeah,
I know.
That
very
is-
true.
I really hope that happens.
Me
Okay,
too.
this is
I really want that to happen.
Okay, there we go. There was our segue into the next
Megan,
one.
I'm
We
with you.
found
I'm like,
it.
please,
We
I
found it. Okay, bring into the chat Chris and Donna. Okay, did anybody else like more Chris and Patrice, Donna's mom?
Yes, I was
I
in
did.
the wrong. I was in the wrong.
They're
I
so cute.
I
They were
fully
really cute.
acknowledge that. I read the vibes super wrong in book one. And
There you go.
the
I
vibes
feel like you're like
the vibes are vibing now. So
The
I'm
vibes
here
are
for
okay,
it.
good. The
Redemption.
vibes are vibing.
I liked it better too.
Yeah. I'm trying to wonder like if I could see Bogdan and Donna together.
That's what I really that's my like, please happen.
Yes.
Good work.
The thing is though, like it'll
Yeah.
be so interesting because like she's police. She's gonna have to like
What
look
I'm
past
like, ooh.
a lot of his shady dealings from the past. I don't feel like he's super shady now, other than what he does for Elizabeth, really.
Elizabeth, yeah.
That's basically it.
But also like Donna does stuff for Elizabeth that you
So
could
true.
like is sort of gray in the gray,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Showed
I mean,
up
I
for
like
the
it
group
because it's
quite
like
a bit here too.
slight. He did. It's slightly like star-crossed, like he's from the other side of the tracks.
Mhm.
I'm like, yes, I'm so here for it.
I love it. Bree ships it. She says yes.
I really want it to happen.
I'm not
Uh-oh.
alone in this.
No,
I want it to I'm
No.
like, please.
Same.
I'm just curious if them getting together would make like Donna more comfortable operating in the gray, if you will, or Bogdan more like straight laced on the straight and narrow.
Yeah, that's a good thought. I didn't think.
Because if you're on opposite side of the tracks, one of you has to cross the tracks. So who's crossing the tracks?
I guess that's true.
For the sake of the story, it should be Donna.
Yeah.
It should be Donna. There
I
you
think
go.
so too. Because I feel
hope-
like she's gonna get roped in like further and further to where she is gonna have to make like that moral decision, and then she'll just end up on the side of the tracks that
on the
Bogdan's
side.
To
And
be
I think
fair, they kind of did. Like, in a very small way, they definitely already did. So I feel like the seed has been planted and it is going to just grow, 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 grow.
I think Elizabeth is going to be a big influence on Donna, like Bogdan too, but on sort of encouraging, pushing, forcing, whatever you want to call it, like Donna to sort of bend the rules a little bit more.
Oh no, I could see that 100%. Does anybody feel the same way about Patrice, Donna's mom, kind of getting pulled in a little bit more now too? Maybe not.
I feel like Chris does a pretty good job of like sheltering her. But what I'm curious, and this kind of goes back to Connie, is like, is there any force behind some of the threats that were made against Patrice that
Okay.
we have not seen come to fruition yet?
I was absolutely terrified for her. I was 100% terrified that knock on that door start knocking. And I was like, I was genuinely getting heart palpitations. 100%.
And she's in prison now, so it'll be really interesting if not that, I mean, she has people on the outside, but like if something comes of that in book 3.
Especially, oh man, okay, so now, especially if Bogdan is involved with Donna and that's police, then she has like a double reason to get back at the police because they're
Oh,
stealing her man.
Connie's gonna be pissed.
She's gonna be so pissed.
It's gonna be a mom-daughter hit.
Yeah.
Why?
Oh.
Why are we putting that out
Did
of
we
the
just-
universe? No.
I was gonna say-
No.
Okay. That's my okay. Megan, I'm with you now. This is prediction.
This is it. This is it.
I don't know why.
Oh,
This is it. I'm gonna stand on that hill with you, Megan. I think Connie is going to call a hit on Patrice and or Donna in book 3.
Agree.
And is that the bullet that missed?
Yeah.
The bullet that missed.
Snap.
Ooh, there it
Bree, you
is.
got it. We just solved this
I was
mystery.
gonna say, did
Without
we just
reading
write
it.
the third book?
that no. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Holy Toledo. I mean, I feel like we pretty much covered what we needed to from this book. This was chock full of so much fun, so much witty banter. I am so glad that all of us enjoyed it. I thought it was so much fun. And I'm trying to look back at my notes now just to make sure I didn't miss anything that was critical, but I think we hit the critical plot points, ladies. And
Woohoo.
yeah, I am with you as far as Connie going after Patrice and or Donna. I just don't like it and don't want to talk about it. So
Stay tuned. Now I'm excited to see if it comes true. We'll
Yes.
see.
excited and nervous.
Predictions. They're in.
Oh
Mhm.
my gosh. Well, listener, I think from there we'll be back with book 3, The Bullet That Missed, next month. So I am super, super excited to dive into that one. And until then, make sure you're tuning in, you're following, rate, review, subscribe. You can obviously follow the podcast on Instagram at Narratives and Nightcaps. We have a lot of really, really great content coming your way this summer. So absolutely check it out. You can find me on Instagram at Cozy Reads and Sips.
And you can find me at Bookstop Bottles.
And until next time, I think I'm going to go get a bottle of red. and say cheers.
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 Cheers.